there's really not a lot of meat in the Feige and Stranger Things stuff. That's just, I wanted to bring it up because it's happening.
Yeah,
You know what?
That's cool.
You know why? You know why?
Why?
Because it's all hype.
You need to save that. We need to cut that out.
That's I don't know what I want to use that for, but
You could use it later in the episode when you're like, Spider-Man is back in the MCU, and you just cut to Andy.
that's you know what? That's a sound clip for some other time, for every time.
Oh God, no!
You do it to yourself. I want
That
you
is
to
a
know
hype
that.
sound clip now. That is our hype sound clip.
It's gonna be. I kind of want to overuse it so much in this episode when I'm editing. It's just
Stranger Things 4. Hype, hype.
yeah. Every topic we talk about, it's just gonna be hype. Every headline we talk about from here on out, even if it sucks, it's gonna be hype. I love it. You just found the cold open, Andy. Hello and welcome to another episode of Brad Guy and His Super Friends. I'm your host, Brian Labick. Joining me for this episode is Mike Bradley.
Hype, hype.
And Andy Stolz.
What's up, podcast people?
Andy, even though you got your staple, I almost feel like you stole your intro. I should let you go first.
He made the cardinal error.
All right, so we're switching it up a little bit this time, at least I guess for us, not you guys. We're recording on a different night. I'm already a little off balance just because it's earlier in the week than I'm used to. So we're going to try to get a little something out for you, try to get a little bit more, hopefully, regular with some of this stuff. But so what we got right now, there's a few headlines to talk about. We're going to try to cover them quickly to keep it moving. To help us out, I'm going to bring back our trusty 10-minute timer when we get to the topic. So if you hear the alarm go off, we've hit the end and we have to move on. Just to try to rein us in a little bit, because we've been known to go off the rails fairly quickly and often. So I got four topics lined up for this one. Some of them will probably be obvious if you've been following the Facebook page and what I've been posting. Some of these I haven't posted yet because I'm just behind on posting what I find. So we'll try to cover them and give you a rundown on what's going on. So the first and foremost, I feel like the most important one to talk about is the latest development for the Sony and Disney / Marvel deal with Spider-Man. They've come to an agreement, which I kind of want to toot my own horn. And I think the last time the three of us talked about this, I was the only one that said that this was going to happen. You guys thought they were done. I should have pulled a sound clip. I didn't get that far into it to actually put out the proof, but I'm
Yeah, I can't remember what I said. So
I'm like
if you say
90%
I said when
positive.
they were done, I'll believe you.
I do believe that Brian was the only one that said that would happen. So.
But on the reverse side of things, I think I was one of the few that said James Gunn was not coming back to the MCU after being fired, so I was wrong there. So at least I can get this win for
I'm pretty sure I was right about that one.
Yeah,
Pretty sure I had that one.
I think you and Josh had that one at least. I don't remember who else was on that episode. But so yeah, we're splitting the difference here. I think we're even it out. So a few episodes ago, we talked about the breakup between Sony and Marvel and Spider-Man and stuff. I went over the timeline for that whole deal way back to when Marvel was struggling in the 90s and how they lost the rights to Spider-Man and sold them off and stuff, which I'm not going to repeat now because we're trying to keep it short. But feel free to go back to that episode. You can listen to that one if you want more details and how all this went down and check it out. I will try to summarize and keep it simple for now. So what we've got now, the original deal was for Sony to finance Spider-Man movies, the solo Spider-Man movies, and then Disney and Marvel would produce them. That means Sony gets the majority of the profits. Disney, Marvel were left with 5% of first dollar gross, is what was reported. Disney was apparently trying to renegotiate the terms. They wanted a bigger percentage to finance the movies, but they also wanted a bigger percentage back. Because Spider-Man is making over $1 billion when these movies come out. So they wanted a little bit more of that pie if they are putting that much effort into making these movies. Which is understandable, but they got a little greedy. So because of that, that's when Disney and Sony kind of broke up. Negotiations were ongoing. Depending on what you read, there's all kinds of articles that seem to differ on the percentages. Some of them were saying, 25% is sort of what both sides were kind of saying, but not to each other, but that's what was both being reported separately. Some of them were saying Disney went as high as offering to do 50-50, and Sony, of course, did not want to do that. So they kind of met in the middle, and now it seems like 25% is the way to go. Sony was one of the excuses Sony kept running too was that Kevin Feige was way too busy to be on to help produce these Spider-Man movies. So they were sort of laying it on his workload as a reason why that he wasn't able to do this, or why they had to split ways like this, which is kind of full of shit, and we'll get to that later.
A man who had just produced 23 movies.
Yeah. I think it's more like concurrently there's too much on his plate, I think is what they're trying to say. But still, the man just keeps adding stuff to do. So, again, we'll get to that in a little bit. The new deal that has happened now, it sees Disney and Marvel having a 25% co-financing stake in the next Spider-Man solo movie, which entitles them to 25% equity stake in the film. The other bullet point that comes from the deal is that Spider-Man can appear in one other MCU film. So this is most likely some sort of team-up, possibly another Avengers movie. None of this is confirmed. This is just speculation at this point. All we know is it will be another MCU movie. And so we at least get 2 more appearances from Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the MCU. We get a solo film to finish off the trilogy, which if you've seen Far From Home, is thank God they're doing that, because that was the biggest cliffhanger that we need answers to. So I'm glad that's going to happen. And then we get 1 more film to be determined. So we will see where that pops up. Sony and Marvel both issued a press release about the deal. I want to highlight Kevin Feige's quote, because I think the wording here is interesting, which we can dive into. So Feige's quote goes, "I am thrilled that Spidey's journey in the MCU will continue, and I and all of us at Marvel Studios are very excited that we get to keep working on it. Spider-Man is a powerful icon and hero whose story crosses all ages and audiences around the globe. This is the important part. He also happens to be the only hero with the superpower to cross cinematic universes, so as Sony continues to develop their own Spideyverse, you never know what surprises the future might hold." So I really want to dive into the quote, but just overall from the deal, what do you guys think? Good news, bad news? Are we on board with this? Do we like how this sounds?
I'm on board with it. I really want to see the trilogy come to fruition that Feige sort of had planned for. And, any kind of team up with Spider-Man is going to be good. So awesome. I'd still much rather Disney just buy it from Sony and not have to deal with any of that shit at all.
Yeah.
But I will take this. I will definitely take this.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if Sony Pictures sells Spider-Man, they pretty much have to close their doors. Like, financially speaking, they just become defunct compared to what they are now.
Just buy Sony Pictures then.
Right. And I think eventually we may see that actually happen. But that could be 20 years down the road. For all we know. We don't know when that could happen.
I think right now Sony's asking price to sell Sony Pictures is probably going to be astronomical, because they think they're riding high off of these Spider-Man films, off of Venom, off of Spider-Verse.
Well, I was discussing that with Amy and saying, at what point did Marvel go into their offices and say to them, like, how much of that money you made off of Venom do you really think benefited from people thinking Venom might be part of the MCU? Because your average movie-going audience is not smart enough to know that it wasn't ahead of time. And then, say this at the same time, like, and how much do you think the next one will make after this whole, public relations fiasco we've just had here, where obviously now Spider-Man and Venom are not part of the MCU? How much money do you think they're going to make? That was a definite bargaining chip I think Sony or Marvel had, whether they used it or not. As far as whether or not I'm happy about it, yeah, of course I'm happy to see Spider-Man come back. My only disappointment is it's just 2 movies. I would have preferred to hear, like, they signed a even anything more than 2, 3, 4, 10, whatever the fuck it could be, I'd be happy. Another thing I, discussed with Amy today, I would be happy if they, Hugh Jackman treatment for Tom Holland. Give him that treatment. He's good enough as Spider-Man. I would accept watching him as Spider-Man for the next 10 years, 15 years.
Yeah.
Let him transition from the high school Spider-Man into the, 20s Spider-Man and even into the early 30s Spider-Man. And, maybe eventually we get that Jake Johnson beer gut and pizza downing Spider-Man we've seen in Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. As far as Feige's quote goes, I think he leaves it vague intentionally to see, maybe the Venom movies they're making start going well. And it starts to be more and more okay in his mind to include him there. Or maybe they make a different agreement where they can use a different version of Spider-Man in the MCU. But they can't use Peter Parker. Maybe Miles can show up in the MCU, but he can't show up. But Peter goes back to being full-time Sony. Maybe something like that happens. I guess that would be a wait-and-see kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I'm reading into it a lot more, I think. I feel like Sony realizes they are behind the 8 ball, and they want to make sure that their Spider-Man movies are successful. And right now, Tom Holland's Spider-Man is the most successful thing in that universe, and it's not theirs. If he's in the MCU, it's harder to rip him out. And I think that's what they realized when this shit hit the fan with this deal and the internet exploded and was yelling at Sony when technically I still blame Disney for that. Disney wanted more money, was asking to renegotiate stuff. I think I blame Disney for that. But Sony was the one getting the brunt of all the punishment and people yelling at them online and giving them shit that it's all
because
Sony's
they're
fault.
the ones that make the subpar product.
Right.
They were in the disagreement, but they make the subpar product, so people still were going to side with the better product.
Right. So, but I think Feige's quote, I think we're just hearing the top end of what this deal is. We don't, again, same thing that when they originally made the deal to get Spider-Man in the MCU in Captain America Civil War and everything that followed, no one knew the details of when that could all go to shit. At least here we have a finite number of movies. We know we are getting 2 more appearances, and then after that we can try to brace ourselves to say goodbye to Tom Holland's Spider-Man from the MCU. That I can live with, because I was really... when this news broke, it was basically having the rug pulled out from you, out from under you for the Spider-Man MCU deal, which is what I was worried about the entire fucking time. So now
it happened right after Far From Home.
Right.
That drops in the theater. We've seen it a couple times in the theater, and then next thing you know, it's like, well, Spidey's gone.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck?
So if I'm at Sony trying to get ahead of this, obviously Sony wants Tom Holland's Spider-Man. They want to use him.
Sure.
Now, Marvel and Kevin Feige realize that he is a big part of their universe now too, and you can't just take him from one and put him in the other. So I think these 2 movies are going to be somehow used as a transition from the MCU to Sony's Spider-Verse. And I think the next thing we're going to talk about, which we'll dive into more, I think is going to be a good segue to help bridge the gap there. So I think
could be.
Depends
on which version, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I think Feige's quote, I think you're right. I think it is vague and purposely to leave the door open for that kind of thing. And I don't know if we're going to see immediate effects as Tom Holland Spider-Man could show up in Venom 2, which I think they're shooting now, or at least getting prepped to shoot because that's coming out soon. Or if they're going to wait until the MCU stuff wraps up, or we don't know what other MCU movie Spider-Man will be a part of. So if Spider-Man 3 happens and then he goes to Sony's universe somehow, and then is he going to pop back over to the MCU for the presumably team-up movie or whatever they're planning to do? Or is it going to be 2 in the MCU and then he's done and then he's over in Sony's and we don't see him again?
Did they specifically say Tom Holland Spider-Man or Spider-Man?
They said Spider-Man, but I'm assuming they go hand in hand. So that's me reading into it then too.
Yeah, well, I'm just spitballing. If they're talking multiverse, maybe we get the conclusion to Tom Holland's Spider-Man and they throw some multiverse stuff at us for Spider-Man's other appearance in the MCU that comes after that. Possibly.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, at this point, we don't know how it's going to go. This is all guessing and stuff, and
Sure.
again, this is something we can compare years from now and see if any of our predictions actually lined up and were correct.
That's mostly why I throw shit at the wall and see if it sticks. Because the more I throw, the more chance something's going to stick.
But I will go on record again and say that I think this is the beginning of the end for Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the MCU. I think we're going to get 2 more appearances, and I think that's it. I think they give him a very nice send-off in whatever that second movie is, and we might even see the like a tease of that in his last solo movie to set up what could happen in this next MCU movie that pushes him into Sony's universe. Just the wording of cross-cinematic universes. And then he goes on to say Sony continues to develop their Spideyverse and what surprises that might hold. So he is... and I guarantee you, they're probably asking... Sony is probably asking Kevin Feige for advice. And he loves the character enough, I think he would give it to them. Just to see good Spider-Man movies, whether he's involved or not. So I think that team is working on some sort of transition. That's, again, me reading into it, but that's my theory.
I mean, yeah.
We have 1:50 left on the clock. Anything else that you guys want to add to this? Because I feel like I could just ramble about this forever.
I'll let Andy go. I've been talking a lot.
Andy, do you think a transition to the Sony universe is going to happen?
They could take... That might be the way they take Tom Holland's Spider-Man out of the MCU and put him into the Sony universe. He gets caught up in one of those... what do they call them? Interdimensional blobbity-blahs that happen at the end of the Spider-Verse.
I like blobbity-blah. It's scientific.
Yeah. Whatever term they use, that's better. Just go with that.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll happen before his time in the MCU is up, or do you think it'll happen after that? You think we get...
I think the last thing you see from Tom Holland Spider-Man in the MCU is him getting sucked into some sort of vortex, heading for a new multiverse.
Yeah, I'm thinking something similar to that, which, again, the next topic I think leads more into that theory for me, too.
I mean, I'm going to throw this out there. Again, this is me throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it sticks. The same cosmic force that creates the Fantastic Four thrusts Spider-Man into the multiverse. And we get the creation of the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man being pushed out of the universe at the same time in the MCU.
So it's trying to, like, even itself out. Hey, you're going to miss Spider-Man, but at least you got the Fantastic Four back.
Why not?
Woo!
I don't know if Andy likes that idea.
Well, I mean, if it's the Fantastic Four stick, then
Fan Four stick.
We don't want them.
It's not going to be that.
Okay.
All right, we've hit our time. All right, last call. Any final thoughts? We're moving on. I think I don't know if I ever mentioned, but yes, I do think it's good news. I think having again a finite number of Spider-Man movies is good. At least it gives us 5 years or something to prep for Spider-Man to leave. Yeah.
It gives the conclusion.
Yeah, and I trust them to wrap it up. And $10 says John Watts immediately comes back for Spider-Man 3.
Oh, yeah, now? Definitely.
Yeah. All right, so another Spider-Man news. Collider is saying that Sony is developing a Madam Web movie. So it's their same writers, Matt Sazuma and Burke Sharpless. It's the same writing duo that is working on the upcoming Morbius movie for Sony with Jared Leto. I would like to add some other work of this writing duos that IMDb had listed: Dracula Untold, The Last Witch Hunter, Gods of Egypt, and they are 2 of the 3 creators listed for Netflix Lost in Space series, which I actually enjoyed. So that is a redeeming factor for me. Yeah,
I've been meaning to watch that because the captain from Black Sails is in that. I think
I enjoyed that series a lot.
Never watched Black Sails, but Lost in Space was good.
Yeah. So, and the fact that they were the creators for that show and not just writers means they have a bigger hand in Lost in Space than probably everything else under their, like the other 3 movies I just mentioned. So, with that being said, I think I'm actually looking forward to this a little bit more, just if they have a little bit more creative control, maybe.
Didn't really create Lost in Space. They just sort of took what was already there and sort of did.
It's
Right,
a
I
lot
think
different.
I think quote unquote creators is basically like showrunners for this version of the series.
Okay.
And it's a lot different than old Lost in Space.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're
It
curious
takes-
about it, I'd recommend checking it out. I did enjoy it a
Yeah.
lot.
It's not what you're expecting necessarily.
Yeah, because Gods of Egypt, Last Witch Hunter was. What was the other one?
Dracula Untold.
Oh, I never saw all of that, but
Actually, that one
I've heard that was okay.
I'm gonna say is half decent. I was actually hoping they were gonna start their MonsterVerse from there, and then they
Okay.
canned the idea of that being the start of the MonsterVerse and went for Tom Cruise's Mummy, which I guess they now have also canned as being the start of the MonsterVerse.
I mean,
Yeah.
did you see that movie?
Yes, I've seen the movie. I've seen them both, and Dracula Untold, actually really not that bad. Luke Evans makes a really awesome Dracula.
Oh, I'm sure he would. I mean, but yikes.
Yeah, no, that list of 3 movies is like a train teetering on the tracks ready to crash, and then
Yeah.
they kind of landed with Lost in Space and got it righted.
One thing I'll give all of those movies though, all of them had very good special effects.
Which had nothing to do with the writers.
Correct.
Yeah, they were writers. They were, yeah, like that's, yeah.
And we don't know how Morbius is going to turn out, so, the jury's still out there.
They're basing an entire movie off of Morbius.
I hope he's totally emo. It's gonna be great.
God, we already got Jared Leto's emo Joker.
Yeah.
Throw it in, emo
He's
Morbius.
so
Let's
great.
do it. Why
Let's do
not?
it. Rock it.
Like, honestly, Morbius is not a character I have ever cared that much about.
No.
This is not Craven. This is not... That's the movie they should be fucking making. If they wanted to make a high-quality, top-end movie that people really want to go and see that would really interest people, make a fucking Craven movie.
Yeah.
Morbius... It just reeks of failure.
Yeah, I don't know who pitched that idea, or if it's just like, hey, we can get Jared Leto for this, so let's do it. Because it's Jared Leto.
Maybe that was
do you think Jared Leto is like thinking to himself, like, why the fuck did my agent make me do this?
He's trying to come back from the Joker.
Ugh,
Which I don't think this is the role to do it, but, I don't know.
Well, especially given like how great the previous Joker was, and how seemingly great, supposedly, the next Joker is. Even if I don't like Joaquin Phoenix, it's hard to ignore all the awards the film has already gotten.
Oh, it's winning all kinds of awards already, and it's not even out yet.
Right, like it's hard to ignore that. So you've got Jared Leto squeezed in between these 2 incredible performances of the Joker. Yeah, I would be trying to distance myself too, but I don't think wearing white face makeup in another role is the way to do it. Just, but to the Madam Web movie.
Yeah, so I don't know much about this character from the comics. I remember Madam Web from the animated series from the 90s.
Yeah, and that's where she gets like the multiverse powers.
And if
And
I
I
remember
can tell you-
correctly, was she the one responsible in the animated series? Was she the one responsible for transporting Spider-Man through dimensions that sent him to Secret Wars, like that story arc? Because I'm pretty sure she was at least involved for the Spider-Verse story arc that they did for the animated series.
For the animated series to send him to Secret Wars.
Yeah, she popped up in the show. This is what I remember. Hopefully I'm getting this right. She popped up in the show. She started visiting Peter Parker Spider-Man and telling him that she was training him for something, like making sure he's good and ready for whatever's coming. And then after so many episodes, she eventually felt like it was time, and then she transported him to... Maybe I'm mixing them both together, because now I feel like this could have been the Secret Wars one.
Because I feel like that version of Spider-Man was fighting Carnage.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's been
Or
so
well,
long
not
since I
that
watched it.
version, but like that storyline was something to do with Carnage. I don't really.
Yeah, because I remember them teaming up with like different versions of Spider-Man at the end, and I thought that was Madam Web, like kind of picking him out and pulling all these Spider-Men from different universes so they could team up against something to fight. That was, I thought, how like the series ended.
But wasn't that like Carnage? Like
See, I don't remember what
multiverse or something.
Maybe. I mean, I honestly don't remember what they were fighting. I just remember them being together.
I mean, I honestly would have to look it up to remember exactly. The only, like, off the top of my head, the only stuff I really remember about Madam Web is from the comics.
Okay, so you have a different
Well, like, I have that base from the animated series, that little bit you're talking about. Like, I remember she had much more strong powers
Right.
on that show than she did in the comics. I remember that bit.
Because she was almost like clairvoyant and stuff, too.
Well, she had clairvoyance and all that, but the reality warping powers she had in the show were not part of the comics.
Okay. So they could, I guess, take
was
whichever one they wanted to use for here.
Well, in the comics, she was a mutant. And she was like... That's why I have, like, some recollection. Because, you know, me and the X-Men and the mutants and everything, I've done a lot of that reading. And she was a big part of the House of M storyline.
Okay.
And she was really just kind of a telepath. You know what I mean? Like, it was a telepath, oracle kind of character is what she portrayed in the comics at that point. That's the most of what I know about her, is like that House of M appearance.
So is she part of the Rogues Gallery, or is she more of a hero?
I feel like she was more of an ally. I don't remember him fighting her.
Well, no, she never really fights. She's like a paraplegic. She can't move.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, I remember that. She's a cripple.
She's blind too, right? She's blind.
Yes. Yeah, she is. So she has like this kind of like Professor X thing going on where she can use her mind, but she can't use her body. But I don't necessarily remember her being good/bad. I remember her being there. And in some roles, she might play kind of a villain, and in other roles, she might play kind of a hero.
Okay.
Just depending on, like, which story line you're in. But she would, like, again, she was, like, clairvoyant, so she would be kind of, like, more of an oracle type of character, if that makes sense, where she's telling the future, but she's not really good or bad.
Okay. Yeah, so I was like teasing it when we talked about the deal, but in my mind, if they want to phase Spider-Man out of the MCU, this could be the movie to do it. Because they announced this movie a couple days before the Spider-Man news broke for the deal, and I didn't even really think twice about it, and then it got lost in the shuffle of Spider-Man coming back to the MCU. But just Feige's quote about crossing shared universes, and they talk about a Madam Web movie, where, again, from what I remember in the cartoon, he crossed universes thanks to her in the cartoon, that this could be the exact reason why Spider-Man is suddenly snapped away from the MCU after 2 movies. Like, my tease would be at the end of his second appearance in the MCU, she comes to talk to him, to say, I've got this thing that I need your help with to do, and he disappears from the MCU, and then he pops up in, like, Venom 3 or whatever the fuck they want to put him.
Maybe.
And I don't know if that's something you tease in his solo movie, like Spider-Man 3. I guess it just depends the timing. If they want to...
Well, we don't know what other movie he's going to appear in.
Right. It could be like 5 or 6 years after Spider-Man 3, so that's why I don't know if he's going to pop into Sony movies after...
And then back?
Right. He's gonna go back and forth.
Or his first appearance could come before that Spider-Man.
Possibly.
Like, he could show up in Doctor Strange. He could show up in... Eternals does take place in New York. And San Francisco. Or is it just San Francisco? I can't remember. But he could show up in another movie. For all we know. It may not have to be that big event movie.
Right. I mean, I assume if it's going to be his last appearance, it almost has to be the big event movie.
I still like my Fantastic Four theory.
I know you're banking on that.
I like the idea of Fantastic Four movies replacing Avengers movies as the big titles for this set.
They do have the bigger bads.
I mean, I'm not saying Fantastic Four aren't going to be part of the Avengers movies.
I mean, I'm saying, like, instead of Avengers, we get Fantastic Four, and they're the event movies.
I mean, I feel like almost any one of these movies are event movies now.
Well, no, I mean, like, the big, like, phase ending.
But would you have other heroes in it, or just Fantastic Four?
Well, not just the Fantastic Four that you normally think of. It has been the Fantastic Four.
Like, I feel like you could still use
Spider-Man,
Fantastic Four villains
Wolverine,
and just
Ghost Rider
have other
Fantastic
heroes
Four
in there.
members. I'm just saying, like, there's been other members.
Oh, you mean just call the team
Marvel
the Fantastic Four instead of the Avengers?
Yeah, this is how you create the coming together of the Fantastic Four in the first Fantastic Four MCU movie. That's your phase-ending movie. just like they did with the Avengers. The team came together. Sure, you spend more time with that team personally, per se.
How many people are going to get confused when they go to see a Fantastic Four movie and there's 20 characters in there?
Well, I mean...
I feel like there's a reason they call it the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, but they've been more than 4 several times.
I'm assuming we don't have a lot of time left.
I started the timer late. So according to the timer, we have 4 minutes.
Okay. What would your choice of casting for her be?
For Madam Web?
Yeah.
I actually think it'd be really awesome and somewhat funny if they used the original Aunt May from Raimi's movies.
Is she still alive?
I assume so. I don't know.
She was pretty old in that first one.
I know.
20-some years later.
I mean, I don't know. We could fact check that, but... Because, you could put in some sort of line of dialogue or joke that, like, Spider-Man, even Tom Holland's Spider-Man, just kind of recognizes her and she looks a little bit familiar, but he's not sure why. I just think it'd be a fun Easter egg. I don't know. That's the first immediate gut reaction pick for me.
That's an interesting... I mean, I think it's a funny idea. I don't know if it's the one they would go with, or if it would be, like, my fan casting choice.
Oh, I'm sure, because that would fuck everybody's brain up, because no one's going to know what universe it appears in, and who's what, and what's right, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, if I had to pick one person to play that kind of character, it's a hard choice, but my gut says Sarah Paulson.
My runner-up, now that I'm just thinking about it, Helen Mirren.
So you're going old.
Yeah. For Madam Web, yes.
I think you could cast a young person and make them look old.
I mean, yeah, sure, that's fine.
Like, that's what I was going with Sarah Paulson. That's where I'm at with that. Like, it's... But Helen Mirren works. Sure.
Andy, do you have a choice?
I'm going to go Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Are you going, like, a little bit younger?
She's not that young.
Well, I mean, like, I feel like she's younger than Helen Mirren.
She's younger than Helen Mirren, but she's not that young. She's in her 50s.
Yeah.
50 is the new 40.
She's not 50. She's in her 50s.
Well, still.
She I would say late 50s. She's married to Michael Douglas, who was like 20 years older than her, and he's old as fucking dirt.
Yeah. I'd say she's probably pushing 60.
I guess I just don't picture her with white hair. I think that's what throws me. I keep thinking she's younger than she is.
You know what? Google is a friend. Oh, I was wrong. She is exactly 50.
Okay.
I thought she was a little bit older than that. Yeah, 25 years. Michael Douglas is 75. Good for him. I mean, that's a large gap. 75 to 50. That's big.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's quite an attractive woman.
Nonetheless, yeah, like I don't know. I feel like Madam Web has to be creepy at the same time as being that neutral. She's still, like, she was always creepy to me.
Yeah. I'm doubling down on Helen Mirren. I think Helen Mirren could do it. I think she could definitely.
She can do anything.
Yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sake,
Goldie. Glenn Close. Bring Glenn Close back.
Again, you're talking Helen Mirren and Glenn Close. Those women can do anything. It doesn't matter what role you put them in; they're going to be good.
Yeah.
So, I'd be fine with
that. So yeah, we're about at the end of our timer here, but we'll just have to wait and see how this plays out. I mean, for a while there, Sony was talking about an Aunt May prequel that turned her into a spy, like back when they were doing Amazing Spider-Man and stuff. So this could be right in the wheelhouse of just throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks. So we don't know if this is gonna
Marissa
happen.
Tomei is Madam Web.
No, this is when they had. I mean, it was during the Amazing Spider-Man when they were trying to kick off their universe and stuff. So it would have been Sally Field.
Yeah.
But it would have been a prequel, so it wouldn't have been Sally Field playing the character. They would have got somebody else. But still, no one wants to see a movie about Aunt May being a spy. What the fuck does that
makes
have to do
no
with
fucking
Spider-Man?
sense.
Yeah.
Who thought of that? Fire them. And if they've already been fired, hire them and fire them again.
unless it's a what if episode.
Probably fucking Avi Arad.
Even a what if episode, I don't want to see Aunt May as a spy.
I think that'd be kind of fun.
Andy is the one and only person that wants to see this movie.
Well, I mean, Marissa Tomei.
If it was Marissa Tomei,
yeah,
but at the time that this was being talked about, it was not her. She was not cast. I'll watch Marissa Tomei do anything.
Anything?
Anything.
Have you seen Two Girls, One Cup?
On to the next one. Next story. So, remember when I said that one of the reasons Sony gave for kind of backing out on the deal with Spider-Man was that Kevin Feige is too busy? Well, that's full of shit because Kevin Feige just signed on to produce a Star Wars movie. So, that's complete bullshit. I just thought it was kind of funny how Kevin Feige goes to Star Wars and like leaves the MCU headlines were out there and all this kind of crap. But literally, the only thing in the story is one quote from Alan Horn. And all the quote says is, with the close of the Skywalker saga, Kathy, which is Kathleen Kennedy, is pursuing a new era in Star Wars storytelling. Knowing what a diehard fan Kevin is, it made sense for these two extraordinary producers to work on a Star Wars film together. That's it. That's all we have to go on. There's no release date. There's no subject matter. We have no idea what era this takes place in. Nothing. This is it.
And yet still there is so much hope that is derived from seeing Kevin Feige attached to Star Wars.
Yes.
If he cares about Star Wars even 50% as much as he cares about Marvel, I'm 100% on board with this.
If you listen to him in interviews, he does talk about Star Wars a lot.
Don't you guys feel though that like they're almost like putting too much out there as far as planning of the Star Wars? I mean, they got the Benioff and Weiss, they got this Kevin Feige thing, they got the Rian Johnson. I think he's got a trilogy.
Yeah.
They got there was one other one.
I mean, there's a couple series coming to Disney Plus. We have Cassian and stuff.
Yeah, I know those ones. Those are a little different, but still, like I feel like that's a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
We don't know where they're going to hit because the only release dates we know of are December 2022, 24, and 26.
I'm excited. I'm hyped, but
he's stealing your chances to put that in.
I know. I don't know where I'm going to litter it.
It's still making me a little weary of it.
Yeah.
So just it seems like there's, hey, this guy does, like, every single person that does good movies, they're like, yeah, come over here and make a Star Wars movie.
Let me frame this a little bit for you as a potential possibility. They get Kevin Feige behind this to form this new Star Wars universe they want to create. The new Star Wars universe they want to create is the story that everybody's been waiting to see on live film for so long, and that's the Old Republic. So we have Rian Johnson helming a trilogy. Maybe we get Rian Johnson at the lead of the Darth Revan trilogy. We get that told. But we also have Benioff and Weiss, who have 2 movies?
3.
Or is it 3? They also have 3 movies. Perhaps they get a hold of the Darth Bane trilogy. And perhaps we get main entries in the trilogy that tie both of those together. And Kevin Feige overseeing the connectivity in all of it. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm saying, to me, thinking about that kind of possibility. You know, it doesn't have to be those specific characters or that specific storyline, but, you know, 2 separate trilogies combining themselves into one in the Old Republic with Kevin Feige at the helm. That's just like a Star Wars wet dream for me.
Yeah, I will say I think you're getting a little bit too ahead of yourself. One, because I think we have to remember, Feige is tied up in the MCU. He has a shit ton of stuff to do for Marvel. I can't imagine he's going to oversee more than one movie of Star Wars. The quote itself says 2 extraordinary producers to work on a Star Wars film. 1, singular.
Fair enough.
I think this could be a one and done for him, just to see if he can do it. If it becomes successful, maybe he comes back and they try to plan another, 2 more movies, make a trilogy of it or something. But I think right now it's just going to be one film.
That's fair enough. Let me dream.
I mean, I'm not saying... I think those trilogies are a possibility. I just don't think Kevin Feige is going to have his hand in them.
I mean, maybe he works with Kathleen a little bit and kind of helps her understand how to create this, giant universe as opposed to a 3-film universe which she's creating. Maybe they wanted him to kind of hold her hand a little bit in creating the giant,
See, part of that also goes against the stuff they were talking about before, is like whenever they were releasing a movie every year and they tried to release Solo too close to Last Jedi, and then they blamed the timing and overloading Star Wars with stuff. So they were supposed to be taking a break from this stuff and like starting to put it off and delayed releases. That's why like the release dates of every other year in between the Avatar movies makes sense. But that's only for 3 films. Like Andy mentioned, they got all kinds of films coming out. There's at least probably 8 of them that are being worked on.
Well, yeah. I would say it's important for them to end the Skywalker saga before they start inundating us with more.
Right, but are we going to get a movie every year? Is it going to be every 6 months? How much are they going to throw at us? How quickly?
Depends on what they're doing. Depends on what direction they're going, I think. If they're doing the Old Republic and they want to create a vast universe out of it, I'm down. I am down for that if that's what they want to do.
I played the MMO, and that was a lot of fun.
So you're thinking the 3 movie in Mike's world, the 3 movies that Benioff and Weiss are doing are Old Republic era,
and Johnson.
And Johnson's trilogy is also Old Republic.
I'm thinking if I had my way, they would be doubling and tripling down on the Old Republic and creating an Old Republic Star Wars universe. They would be creating that whole universe.
Yeah, see, I don't know if they're going to go that big.
Why?
Because I think they have to diversify. I think that's the problem they're doing is they're picking the stuff that they've done with the sequel trilogy and at least the spin-offs that they're doing are still just classic trilogy era. They're trying to stay in that like home zone type
because
thing.
They're still telling the Skywalker saga story.
Right, and I get that I'm not saying, I think one of the trilogies that come out, whether it's Benioff and Weiss's or Rian Johnson's, I think will be Old Republic. I couldn't tell you which creative person is going to be in charge of that, but I think one of those trilogies is going to be that. But I think the other trilogy, I need to see Star Wars movies that are completely different from anything that I think I want to see. The Mandalorian carves out a slice of Star Wars lore and stuff that I've never seen on film or stuff before. That's the kind of stuff I want to see. I want to see like a different corner of the galaxy, completely new characters dealing with their own fucking shit and not just entrenched in the Empire or the First Order. Like space pirates. Give me space pirates. The Old Republic
opens that opportunity, though, doesn't it? Like creating an expansive universe around the Old Republic offers that opportunity. It doesn't have to be just the Jedi and Sith in the Old Republic. They still had other things going on.
If you want to give me the Old Republic trilogy with the Jedi and the Sith and stuff, the main trilogy, that's it. The other 3 movies, I will take other stuff set in that era, but I don't really care about the whole mainline story of Jedi versus Sith in another trilogy.
Right, no, and that's kind of what I was trying to get at, is that it's possible if you create this gigantic universe to have a trilogy of telling the Sith, a trilogy of telling the Jedi, and then combine those for a massive epic Avengers-style showdown.
Yeah, but you're also talking about 6 or 7 movies for just that. I'm thinking 3 is enough, and use the other 3 for something else.
Well,
in my opinion.
The more Old Republic I can get, the better.
I get that. That's the one everyone's clamoring for, and it's going to be funny when everybody who hated the end of Game of Thrones, they're in charge of Old Republic, and it's the movie that everybody wants.
I love the end of Game of Thrones, thank you.
One of the few, from what I understand. And then it's also going to be funny if Rian Johnson becomes in charge of it, for the director that everyone now hates is now in charge of the movie that everyone wants to see.
Okay, so you're talking about the same group of trolls online that hates The Last Jedi, and the same group of trolls that hates the end of Game of Thrones, that ignore all the storyline and plot details, and they're just mad because they're mad.
I guess I say quote-unquote everyone, but I mean all the man-babies out there that raise the most ruckus online that everyone seems to think speak for the majority of fans.
I mean, honestly, so the trilogy I want to see on screen the most is the Old Republic. If I had a number 2 to say, okay, Benioff and Weiss make most sense for the Old Republic. That the political intrigue and everything that goes on there, that makes the most sense for them. Give Rian Johnson a Thrawn trilogy.
I'd be fine with that, yes.
You let him tell that story, create your Old Republic base in those 3 films, and then let other one-shot movies exist in the Old Republic after that.
So you also just think there's time periods we haven't seen. Like, they focus on original trilogy era, prequel era, and now the sequel trilogy. There are like 30-year gaps between original trilogy and sequel trilogy where you could tell stories in there. Mandalorian is starting to do that.
Live-action Ahsoka movie.
Yes, something like that would be fucking fantastic.
Oh my god.
The gap between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. There's some storytelling there. I think there can be more. I still want my Vader as the Terminator hunting Jedi down as a movie. I think that would be fucking amazing.
Great.
And then the gap between the Old Republic and the prequel trilogy. Gap. Yeah, you got all kinds of stuff in there where you could easily just make whatever the hell you want.
I think that's 10,000 years that you're talking between.
Probably, yeah.
The birth of Anakin and the fall of the Old Republic.
Old Republic will give you enough freedom too, because you could just make whatever the hell you want. You have no frame of reference 10,000 years ago. Just make and create whatever you want.
The only thing we have in canon about the Old Republic is that Darth Bane existed. Because of him appearing in the Clone Wars. That's the only thing current canon that we technically have.
Yeah.
They haven't touched it.
So, do you think any of these release dates that we have right now, December 2022, 24, 26, do you think any of them will be whatever film Feige's working on? Or do you think it's going to be a complete, just part of the trilogy of somebody's that they're making?
I think it'll be Rian Johnson's.
You think Rian Johnson's, not Benioff and Weiss's trilogy?
Because he was signed on to it sooner than they were.
That's true. However, I don't even think he's actually started working on it very much. Rian Johnson's been doing his own type of thing. I feel like I thought
Knives Out coming out.
Right. And I thought I read that Benioff and Weiss's trilogy was getting priority over his. And plus, if I was Disney, I would be a little bit gun shy of putting Rian Johnson right back out there again with more Star Wars after The Last Jedi. I'd almost
that's true.
Want a little bit more Star Wars to give him a buffer.
FYI, The Last Jedi fucking ruled.
I still really like that one too. And I've seen a lot of people. I do want to just comment too. I've seen a lot of man babies out there too saying that the news of Kevin Feige coming over to produce a Star Wars movie meant that Kathleen Kennedy was being fired. That is not true at all. They are working together.
So first, I'll say I think the Kevin Feige Kathleen Kennedy tandem thing is going to be something that's not tied to either of those trilogies.
Yes.
I think that's going to be something completely separate.
Yeah, I agree.
In terms of the man baby thing, I think the funniest reaction I seen is Brie Larson tweeted a picture of herself in Jedi robes and said, did somebody say Star Wars? And the amount of butthurt that came out of these man babies at that point was unbelievable.
I know. I went and did the mistake of scrolling through the comments for that, and I was like, you fucking people, Jesus Christ.
Oh my God, they are god awful. They are so awful. And
see, I think
I just want to thank her for doing that, just to trigger them, just to do it, just to be like, let's see if we can make these people cry.
I think it was funny because I think it was like Collider or some other movie website posted a tweet of okay, Kevin Feige's involved in a Star Wars movie. Which actor or actress from the MCU would you like to see appear in a Star Wars movie? The first one to reply to that from the MCU was Chris Evans, just saying me.
My simple answer. Go ahead.
Well, I just think after that is when Brie Larson tweeted, does anybody say Star Wars? Trying to throw her name in the hat for that kind of thing. So no one had any idea what the hell she was talking about.
So did Ming-Na Wen.
Yeah.
Oh, did she? Nice.
Yeah.
My answer comes back to one simple answer. Mace Windu is alive.
I'm with you, Mike. The comments for Brie Larson's post, because immediately all they see is her in costume. It's definitely at Disney. With a fake lightsaber.
She posted those a long time ago.
Yeah,
and
people
she did
are
the original visit to Galaxy's Edge. And
people are commenting on there, yelling that she is now cast in a Star Wars movie. And you're like, no, it's not! Fucking do your research.
I wish they would have just listed a faux announcement just to make it even worse. Just to get just for the hell of it.
Stupid people.
Just be like, we have cast Brie Larson and Hillary Clinton as the next Jedi. And just watch it explode. The internet just melts.
Yeah. Andy, I don't think we gave you too much time on that. I apologize.
Oh, it's all good.
He expects that when you and I talk Star Wars, I think.
Yeah, we're way over time on that one. But do you want to chime in on anything else for that one?
No, I think I'm okay.
Okay. This is definitely a topic we're going to come back to, because whenever we get more details, we will update and talk about it. But for right now, we got nothing other than Kathleen Kennedy and Kevin Feige are working on a movie together that is Star Wars. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see it for like 5 or 6 years, honestly.
Yeah. It's working on. It's a work in progress. They probably don't even know what it's about yet. They just asked him, like, hey, do you want to work on a Star Wars movie? He's like, yep.
When it was announced, too, I did see certain people online, I can't remember if it was tweets or something, talk about how at some point Kevin Feige was like spitballing the idea for a Star Wars movie, had told an MCU actor, they wouldn't name drop who it was, that someone like, hey, if this ever pans out, I want you for this role. They wouldn't say what the role is, what movie it would be, or who he was talking to from the MCU for that, but let yourself speculate for the next 6 years and see if you're right.
Chris Hemsworth is Darth Bane.
I think I saw that rumor, actually. I want to say it was someone was speculating Tom Holland.
I mean, I think getting the younger ones, I think that would be cool, getting him in there. I'd love to see Chris Evans in something too, Star Wars related.
I'll stick with Chris Hemsworth as Darth Bane. I'm sticking with it. That would be, if we're talking a supposed casting choice instead of just Mace Windu coming back.
Yeah,
Chris Evans is Darth Bane.
I mean, really, you can't. The like you start thinking of everyone that's cast in the MCU, and there's so many good people in there that any one of them I'd be fine with.
It's a big list.
Any of them. Really, any of them.
I actually would love to see Brie Larson actually in a Star Wars movie, because I know she's a Star Wars fan too. Just make her a Jedi. I want it to happen.
Make her a Twi'lek.
There you go. Twi'lek Jedi.
Nah, Twi'lek gunslinging pirate.
Ooh,
Space pirate.
Yeah.
All right, last news we got. This headline is not surprising. It became official today. Stranger Things Season 4 is happening. Netflix dropped a teaser video that showed just basically the logo for Stranger Things and the number 4 underneath it. And all of that gets overgrown by the Upside Down with the tagline, "We're not in Hawkins anymore." No release date, but with it being usually about a year and a half between seasons, and the last season we got came out over 4th of July, I'd ballpark November, December 2020 for Season 4.
Maybe Halloween, just because.
Yeah, that could work too. So anyway, is this surprising to anybody? What do you guys think?
I think we discussed it before, and we already kind of knew that Season 4 was happening.
Yeah.
But, so it's not surprising, but I'm thrilled to see it nonetheless. Just give me, any teaser. I'm kind of sad not to see a date, so I can't, circle something on the calendar and X off that day for Stranger Things, but...
It's going to be starting the slow burn for Season 4.
Yeah.
I think they did sort of give us a little bit of a teaser just with the little statement that they had.
Right. So that could lead into our... we talked about after Season 3, sort of our theories and stuff. I can't remember where you guys stood on the topic. I am convinced that Hopper is in the Upside Down.
Same.
So if I could see this whole season being sort of like a rescue mission where they have to go over there to get him and bring him back.
Yeah, leading events where they find out that he's alive and in there, as opposed to being dead. Because, Joyce thinks he's dead at this point. And, maybe he figures out a communication method the way Will did in Season 1. And lets them know that he's in there and alive and they gotta go get him.
And also, if you think about it too, the monster that keeps terrorizing everybody is still alive in the Upside Down. So that needs to be dealt with. So if they're over there and they take this thing out...
Maybe that's the end.
Yeah, that was going to actually be my follow-up question is, do you think this will be the last season? I think when we talked before, at the end of Season 3, 4 was pretty much confirmed. 5 was up in the air. So I don't know if we'll get a Season 5.
I mean, I wish... that we'd never see the end of Stranger Things, that they just could keep making it, but eventually it does have to end. So do I think this will be the end? Yes. I hope it isn't. I hope we have 5 seasons instead of 4.
Yeah.
But I think this will be it.
I think differently, actually. I hope that this is the final. I hope that they make an incredible season and they, bookend it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to end it, do it right, for sure.
I mean, just like any show you love, you want them to go out on top. You don't want
Right.
them to come back for one last season that's just kind of meh.
You know, in that instance, I will say, I thought The Walking Dead had done that, and they managed to come back from the dead. Haha. And actually, like, I want to say it was season 7 was really weak. But season 8, they came back and they put together another good season last year. 2 years ago, it was awful. I didn't even watch last year's, like, when it released. I waited until it hit Netflix. So it is possible to go down and then come back up. But I don't want to see Stranger Things have to do that.
Right. Well, that's also kind of assuming if we get 6 or 7 seasons. I think if we only get 5, then in that scenario, 4 has to be your bummer and 5 has to be your redemption.
Yeah. But I think we have that bummer, though, now. Like, I think
What, a weaker season?
No. I was thinking more like Empire to Jedi bummer to your redemption.
Oh, well, you're talking about like seasons that didn't really live up to the hype and stuff.
Yeah, no, 3 was my favorite season so far, actually.
So that's what I mean. I'm thinking like in your scenario, 4 would be the letdown season, and then 5 would have to be the one that comes back and wins you back over.
Right, and I don't want to see that happen. I'd rather it just be good and end on 4 than in that case. So, I mean, whatever the story they want to tell is, I want them just to tell that, and I don't want them to think about profits and having to make another season for money. Tell the story that best suits it. If that's 4 seasons, so be it. If that's 5 seasons, so be it. But make sure you're not padding it. Make sure you're not putting in unnecessary things just to get another season out.
Right.
So you know what's going to happen, right?
Don't.
Hype.
What? And I lost my train of thought.
I threw him off with the hype.
What? You know what I'm going to say?
No, I really don't.
Mike's like flabbergasted over there.
Oh, well, I was excited to hear your take, and now you're forgetting your take, and I'm like... It's like, you know what's really awesome? I forget.
You just blue-balled him.
Yeah, like, totally.
No, what I was going to say was, you know who's going to get the next Star Wars trilogy? The Duffer Brothers.
Oh. It'll be a 3rd trilogy. We'll have 9 Star Wars movies coming.
They're like, hey, this Stranger Things is good. Let's get them to do some Star Wars.
I would not hate that. I'd be completely fine with that. I think, like, depending on how many seasons we get, I feel like it might be dependent on the actors. If they want to keep the kid actors in it, I think season 4 is it.
They're not going to be kids anymore.
Yeah, I think if they want to push it to season 5, I don't think you bring the kids back. I think you have to craft some sort of story around them getting older.
Well, I was just saying, unless they're going to film it on top of 4. Unless they're going to really grind
like
out...
back to back.
Yeah, like really grind out the 4th and 5th season filming. They could do that and get 2 seasons out of them, but if they don't, it's not going to work.
Yeah, my prediction would be with Andy, season 4 is the last one.
I think that's the case.
That's my guess. I mean, I'm not going to be upset when they say, oh, season 4 wasn't it? Season 5 is the final season. I'm going to love it, but
yeah,
my initial gut reaction is season 4 is it. So, again, we'll have to wait and see. This is more just like an announcement headline. This is coming. You probably got, a little over a year and a couple months at least. So, I'm sure we won't hear... Netflix likes to not say anything for a while, and then like a month before it comes out, they're like, oh, by the way, here you go. Next month. Bam! It's coming.
Yeah, they do that.
So, I like that because it doesn't... You don't have to wait that long and stuff. So hopefully we sort of forget about this in the time being. Have other stuff to distract us.
There's lots coming. Let's face it. Disney Plus is a month away.
That's true. That'll definitely hold us over for a while.
Yeah.
I keep thinking too, we're gonna have to depending on when they put the Mandalorian episodes out, we might have to do this weekly, right after, a Mandalorian recap every episode we do.
I mean,
at least just put another a 15-minute Mandalorian recap, and regardless of what else we cover, just that recap somewhere at the end of the episode or something.
Yeah, the way they're going to release them, that should be the case.
Oh, they're doing it weekly?
Yep.
Fuckers.
All their shows. All of them are going to be weekly, episodic type releases.
What?
I don't know. Why are you surprised by that?
Because I just assumed it was going to be like Netflix, give you everything, binge watch.
Netflix is starting to be the minority.
I think their goal with this is going to be like, they release the Black Widow movie. And shortly after that, this series comes out. And if you watch week by week by week by week, the next movie comes out at the end of that season. And it ties the story together. And if they're really doing something like that, how amazing would that be?
Yeah.
Like, how engaged would that keep you? It would really work.
Plus, that's the smartest way to keep people subscribed.
Yeah.
If you are tied to a series that's 13 episodes, then that's, what, at least 3 months of a subscription that you get for somebody?
Yep. Whereas with The Mandalorian dropping, you could pay whatever the monthly was once, watch The Mandalorian in a day, and cancel your subscription.
Right.
And then you got 1 month out of them. So it is a smart business model, even if it's, maybe not as consumer friendly as
And
Netflix.
honestly, I'm as much as I like Netflix and like Stranger Things dropping all you can watch it in a day or two if you want, but it hurts the conversation I try to have with people because it's like, what episode are you on? Oh, I'm at 5. Oh, I got all the way to 8. Well, shit, we can't talk now because you're ahead of me. This keeps everyone on the playing field and generates those water cooler moments where we can all gather, in this case, on the podcast and talk about what we just watched.
Yeah. Did you see that shit last week?
Right,
Yeah.
and everyone's on the same page. No one's ahead of the other. We are on common ground for this discussion.
And I mean, and for us on the podcast, it at least gives us something to show up and talk about. Week.
At the very least, you are getting Mandalorian recap every fucking week.
Yeah. Like, even if that's all we put out, it's happening.
We can have the Mandalorian segment.
We need a Mandalorian noise from Andy to kick off the segment.
What do Mandalorians
They're
make
humans.
noise-wise?
Actually, they don't really make a lot of noise. They're just very silent type. Or at least the one we've seen in the trailer for this show.
Guns, maybe? You could make some pew pew
pew-pew.
noises.
Pew pew.
I'm not doing pew pew.
You just did.
He half-assed it, though. That's not worth keeping.
Oh.
He's got to put some oomph into it. Pew pew, pew pew.
I think that's good. I think you can use that.
I can cover that one.
Mandalorian. Pew pew, pew pew.
Welcome to Mandalorian Recap. Pew pew, pew pew.
It works. I like
That sounded dainty. It really did.
Yeah, that second one there, that was
That's when I put my pinky out when I shoot my guns. All right, so
Brian's X-Wing pulls up to another X-Wing. Pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon?
you don't. Pew 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 pew. All right, so that's all I got for this one. You guys got any last thoughts? Nothing?
No.
Fair enough.
Nope.
All right, so we'll close it down. As always, you can find us on Facebook. Search Bry Guy and his Super Friends on Facebook, or go to facebook.com/Bry Guy Super Friends. You can send us questions, comments, topic suggestions. I'm running comments and suggestions together there, or you can email us at bryguysuperfriends@gmail.com. You can try, I won't check them. Or you can tweet us at BGSuperFriends on Twitter. Those we'll see. Between Mike and I, one of us will get you covered. On behalf of Andy, Mike, and myself, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next time. Pew pew.